The video game industry is a machine that manufactures noise. It is a carnival of points, power-ups, and constant manufactured dopamine hits. But in a small, quiet room, a man known only as the Architect was committing an act of silent rebellion. He saw the industry not as a source of entertainment, but as the most powerful art form ever created, an art form being wasted on adolescent power fantasies. For 10 years, he worked in complete isolation, not to build a better carnival, but to build a mirror.
His project was called Sansara, and it was an anti-game, a photorealistic simulation of a small, ordinary city rendered with an obsessive, pathological attention to detail. There were no quests, no enemies, no objectives. You could get a job, but the work was mundane. You could earn money, but there was little to buy. You could watch the seasons change, listen to the rain, ride the bus in real time from one end of the city to the other. He spent a decade of his life not on crafting fun, but on perfecting the texture of boredom, believing that in that boredom, in that silence, a different kind of truth could be found.
The day of the launch was not a celebration, it was an act of faith. He uploaded the massive multi-gigabyte file to the world's largest digital storefront. There was no marketing, no trailer, no hype. Only the name, Sansara, and a short cryptic description, a place to be, not to do. He had poured his entire life savings and a decade of his existence into this single, quiet statement. He pressed the publish button, releasing his silent prayer into a world that only understood how to scream. Then, he stood up, walked away from his computer, and went to sit by the window, unable to watch the verdict.
The world's verdict was swift, unanimous, and brutal. The most boring game ever made. A pretentious screensaver. I paid $60 to watch digital paint dry. Streamers mocked it, quitting after 5 minutes of walking down a virtual street. Critics gave it the lowest scores in history. The game was a catastrophic commercial and critical failure. The Architect was not just a failed developer. He was a global laughingstock, a cautionary tale of artistic arrogance. His life's work was a joke. His faith, it seemed, had been utterly and completely misplaced.
A year passed, an eternity in the fast-moving world of video games. Sansara was a dead game, a forgotten joke. The Architect, having lost everything, was working a menial data entry job, a ghost haunted by the memory of his failed ambition. He had abandoned his creation, leaving the servers running only out of a strange, vestigial sense of duty. A parent unable to completely abandon a child, even a failed one. The city of Sansara, his perfect, beautiful world, was now a digital ghost town, populated only by its mindless AI-driven citizens. But in a small town in rural Japan, a young philosophy student named Akari had discovered the game. She wasn't a gamer, she was a student of Zen, and she saw in Sansara not a failed game, but a perfect tool for meditation. She didn't try to play it, she would simply log in, find a quiet place, a park bench, a rooftop, a deserted library, and just be. She would watch the digital clouds drift by for hours. She would listen to the sound of the virtual rain. She began to document her experiences on a small, obscure blog, writing about the strange, profound peace she found in the game's intentional emptiness. One day, while exploring a remote, forgotten temple on the outskirts of the game's city, Akari decided to try an experiment. She sat her character down in the center of the temple's Zen garden, and she didn't touch the controls. She simply left the game running, walking away from her computer, wanting to see what would happen if a player did absolutely nothing for an extended period of time. She went about her day. She made tea, she read, she studied. Hours passed. She had almost forgotten the game was still running. When she returned to her laptop late that night, she expected to see the same scene, but the screen was different. The Zen garden was gone. Her character was now floating in a vast, dark, empty space, and in the distance, a single, faint, glowing door of light had appeared. Her heart pounding, she touched the forward key for the first time in 8 hours. Her character drifted towards the door. As she passed through it, the world exploded into a riot of impossible, beautiful, abstract light and color. It was a hidden level, a secret world. The architect hadn't just built a mirror of reality. He had hidden a door deep within the silence, a door that would only open for those with the patience to listen for the sound of its key. Akari, her hands trembling, wrote a new blog post. She didn't describe what she saw in the hidden world. She knew it was beyond words. She simply titled the post "The 8-Hour Door" and described the exact, simple, and meditative process she had followed. She posted a single screenshot, her character standing before the strange glowing door in the void. She didn't know if anyone would believe her or if anyone would even have the patience to try. She published the post and went to sleep, unaware that she had just lit the fuse on a cultural explosion. Her small blog, usually read by a few dozen philosophy students, was suddenly hit by a tsunami of traffic. The story of the 8-Hour Door was picked up by a major gaming journalist, famous for his love of esoteric art house games. Skeptical but intrigued, he decided to attempt the ritual himself, live streaming the entire 8-hour waiting period to his thousands of followers. For 8 hours, his stream was nothing but a static image of a character meditating in a Zen garden. His followers mocked him. But then, as the 8th hour ticked over, the screen changed. The garden vanished. The glowing door appeared. The live chat, which had been full of jokes, fell into stunned, instant silence. The stream clip went viral. Suddenly, Sansara was no longer a joke. It was a phenomenon, a mystery, a collective global quest. Players all over the world began buying the failed game, not to play it, but to unplay it. The act of waiting for 8 hours became a badge of honor, a shared meditative ritual. And what they found beyond the door was different for everyone. The architect had designed the hidden world to be procedural, a surreal, dreamlike landscape that was subtly influenced by the player's few initial passive choices in the main game. No two journeys were the same. The game was not a mirror of reality. It was a mirror of the player's own soul. The game was now a massive, unexpected success. It was being discussed not by game reviewers, but by psychologists, philosophers, and art critics. It was hailed as the first truly introspective video game, a masterpiece of interactive art. But its creator, the architect, was nowhere to be found. His name was not in the credits. He had no social media, no company website. He had so thoroughly erased himself after his failure that he was completely unaware of his own triumph. While the world was desperately searching for the genius behind the mystery, the genius himself was in a gray cubicle inputting shipping data into a spreadsheet, completely oblivious. The search for the architect became a modern-day Grail quest. It was Akari, the young student who had started it all, who found the final clue. While exploring the deepest, most abstract level of Sansara's hidden world, she discovered a single recurring geometric pattern hidden in the procedural chaos.
It wasn't a signature. It was a copyright signature from an obscure piece of open-source rendering software credited to a small, defunct company. With this final breadcrumb, a journalist was able to trace the company's records and find a name, an old address, and finally a current place of employment, a faceless data processing firm on the outskirts of the city.
The journalist found him during his lunch break, eating a sandwich alone on a concrete bench in a soulless corporate plaza. When the journalist approached him, calling him by his real name and showing him the headlines about Sansara on his phone, the architect's first reaction was disbelief, then fear. He thought it was a cruel joke, or that he was in some new kind of trouble. He denied everything. But the journalist was persistent. He simply sat down, opened his laptop, and showed him the live player count for Sansara. The number was in the hundreds of thousands and climbing every second. He then showed him the forums, the articles, the videos, a world celebrating the very thing that had broken him.
That night, for the first time in over a year, he went home and logged into his own game. Not as a developer, but as a player. He followed Akari's instructions. He found a quiet place, and he waited. For 8 hours, he sat in the darkness of his apartment, the same apartment where he had faced ruin and despair. And then, the door appeared. He passed through it, and for the first time, he saw what he had created, not with the critical eye of a coder, but with the wondering heart of an explorer. He saw the infinite, beautiful, ever-changing worlds that his quiet little algorithm was dreaming up for its visitors. He had built a door and had never had the patience to walk through it himself. The architect did not return to his data entry job. He embraced his new reality, but he did so on his own terms. He remained anonymous, never showing his face, communicating with the world only through cryptic, philosophical blog posts signed simply A. He did not sell out. He did not release a sequel. Instead, he used the unexpected fortune from the game's sales to create the Sansara Foundation, an organization dedicated to funding small, experimental, unplayable games and interactive art projects, the kind of quiet, meditative experiences that no major publisher would ever touch.
Years later, Sansara was still a cultural touchstone. It was used in therapy to teach mindfulness, in universities to study digital philosophy, and by millions of people simply as a place to find a moment of peace in a noisy world. It had become the slow food of the gaming industry, a quiet revolution against the frantic, empty calories of mainstream entertainment. The architect, still anonymous, would occasionally add new secret doors to the game, hidden behind new, esoteric acts of patience. Listening to a single fountain for 3 hours, or watching a full moon cross the virtual sky in real time. Each new discovery was a global event, a shared quest for digital pilgrims.
The architect's greatest contribution was not a game, but an idea. He had challenged the very definition of play. He proved that engagement is not always about action, that a narrative can be found in silence, and that the most profound journey is sometimes the one that goes inward. In a world that constantly demands we do something, he created a beautiful, necessary sanctuary that gave us permission to simply be. His identity was never officially revealed, but his philosophy became the guiding principle for a new movement of contemplative gaming. He had failed by the old rules of the industry, the rules of noise, points, and profit. But in doing so, he had written a new set of rules, rules that valued patience over reflexes and introspection over accomplishment. He had lost the battle for the world's attention, only to win the war for its soul. The story of the architect and his quiet, failed game that conquered the world became a modern parable, a testament to the power of a singular, uncompromising vision. It reminded us that the world is full of hidden doors, waiting to be opened, and that sometimes the only key required is the courage to sit, to wait, and to listen to the profound and beautiful sound of absolutely nothing at all.